Good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here with you. And Steffi, thank you for that warm introduction and for having me here. I'm a huge fan of the work you're doing and the global brand that you've built for DLD. It's very, very impressive. So thank you. I joined Instagram. I joined the Instagram team about a year ago, and it's been absolutely fascinating. There were many things that I understood about Instagram, maybe some of the things that you sitting here today understand about Instagram too. But there was something fundamental about the way that people are communicating today that I really had not appreciated until very recently. It's something that I'm still exploring and learning because it's just the beginning of a long-term trend. Because you see, whether you are an entrepreneur, an artist, an activist, a leader, a manager, a parent, a son, daughter, friend, it doesn't matter what role you're in. We all share a common aspiration, and that is to be more effective communicators. Every year, the Oxford English Dictionary selects the word of the year. One word that captures the mood, the ethos, the preoccupations of the world for the previous 12 months. In 2005, it was podcast. In 2007, it was locavore. And in 2013, it was selfie. I admit, I had to look up one of those words. But in 2015, for the first time ever, the word of the year was not a word. It was an image. Specifically, this image, an emoji that's officially called the face with tears of joy. The Oxford English Dictionary made their word of the year an image. And you know what? They were right. Images are becoming our new words. Across the world, we're seeing visuals replace text as they become the new global language. At Instagram, we've had a front row seat to this shift. 5 years ago, our co-founders, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, created Instagram because they recognized that the way the world was communicating was changing. It was 2010, the iPhone 4 had just been released, and everyone was talking about the shift from desktop to mobile. Suddenly, hundreds of millions of people were carrying powerful cameras in their pockets, and they were using these devices to express themselves on the go and experience the world around them. Kevin and Mike focused exclusively on mobile visual communication, and they named the app Instagram because each image was like an instant telegram communicating where you were, what you were doing, how you were feeling, or how you were experiencing the world. Well, in just 5 short years, Instagram has grown to become a global community of more than 400 million people who post more than 80 million images a day. If you look at social media overall, between 2 and 3 trillion images were shared just last year. That means that more photos were taken on mobile in 2015 than were taken on film during the entire era of the analog camera. Together, all of these images are creating a language that comprises the complexity of the world we live in. A language that speaks to the fullness of our lives and the range of our experiences. And most importantly, these images are creating a language that we can all speak and a language that we can all understand. That's because the meaning we find in images transcends borders, cultures, generations, and native tongues. An image can travel far, it can expand minds, it can touch hearts, it can make us feel something, often the same things, even if we live in different countries or communities. So today, I want to share a few reflections with you about the new language of images and how this shift from text to visuals has profound implications for all of us. One big change is that for the first time in recorded memory, we are all historians. Images have always played an important role in how we understand history. And as many people have noted before, history has only been written by a select few. Regular people didn't have the chance of passing along their perspectives. Imagine how much more we would have all learned about the fall of the Berlin Wall if all of you, sitting right here in the front row, had had cameras in your pockets and been able to have the distribution networks to have those images seen. Take a look at this image. We've all seen this image of the Titanic's maiden voyage, right? How many of you have seen this one of the Beatles crossing Abbey Road? Raise your hands. Okay, how about this one of the Afghan girl in a refugee camp? Okay, so this looks familiar to many of you, as it has to many people around the world. Iconic photos like these still bring us together, but now they come from many different sources. Like me, you probably all saw this heart-wrenching image of Aylan Kurdi, the 2-year-old Syrian boy who drowned while traveling by boat from Turkey to Greece. Like so many people around the world, I was deeply moved by this image. I remember talking to my husband about it. I remember going over to friends' houses and having conversations with them and starting to hear them talk about it. But mostly what I remember about this image is that was the moment when people around the world woke up to the humanitarian crisis that was unfolding here in Europe. Not so long ago, this would have been the only image that I saw. But when I went on Instagram, I started to notice so many other images. Images like these, which help deepen our understanding. Images from photojournalists, migrant families, people witnessing these events in communities. Their voices are a daily reminder and keep us connected to the crisis long after Aylan Kurdi disappears from the front pages of newspapers on newsstands. Today, anyone with a smartphone can record an image that captures the attention of the world and write a piece of history. And this democratization of images gives us more than just a diversity of views and perspectives. It gives us ways to build common consciousness, create greater understanding, and maybe even motivate us to act. Which brings me to the second way our new visual language is changing things. Images have always had the capacity to move us, for good or for bad. But today, these images can come from anywhere on Earth and be shared on a scale that was unimaginable 20 years ago. And as a result, we are entering a new age of visual activism. This is Katie Mailer. She was one of Time Magazine's People of the Year in 2014. For 9 years, Katie used her skills and passion to help improve the lives of children in Liberia. She opened up a girls' academy in one of the country's poorest neighborhoods in 2013. But then, Ebola struck, and Katie found herself on the front lines of a crisis that brought unimaginable suffering to the people in that community. Schools were closed. The families of her students were just absolutely terrified, and many were dying. Her days were long and very disheartening, and worst of all was this feeling that she had that the rest of the world wasn't paying any bit of attention to the horror that she was experiencing on a daily basis. So Katie started to use her Instagram account to show people fighting, winning, and losing their battle against Ebola, post by post, day by day. She visited our offices this past year, and she described how, in those moments of suffering, it felt inappropriate, wrong even, for her to pull out her camera and capture an image. She definitely didn't want to remember those horrors, but she hoped that by putting a human face on a human tragedy, she might move people to act. And she did. She was successful. Help poured in from all over. And for many, that was the difference between life and death. In addition to opening the door for activism, images are opening new doors to old industries. Take art and fashion, for example, which have historically been exclusive industries. But with today's new global language, outsiders are beginning to break in. One of them is 50-year-old Londoner Helen Downey. 6 years ago, Helen was diagnosed with breast cancer, and suddenly she felt the urge to paint. Her first work was of a little girl in a chocolate shop in Orvieto, Italy, which she painted while she was on family vacation there after she had received treatment. Her son's friend thought that she should post it on Instagram. She did. She attracted 1,000 followers. So she painted more, and she posted more. A year later, she had 4,000 followers, and today she has more than 200,000. Her account caught the attention of Gucci's creative director, who commissioned her to paint 4 paintings inspired by the 2015 fall collection. Today, one of her paintings hangs in Gucci's headquarters. Helen is no longer an aspiring artist. She is an artist in her own right. The ease and speed of communicating visually opened doors for Helen, and it's doing the same for the rest of us. For instance, I am a fashion lover with a day job. I was actually going to wear this today, but it didn't pack well. Historically, the world's premier fashion shows have been invitation-only events. I've never been. Models, designers, and celebrities would descend on Paris, Berlin, Milan, New York, while the rest of us waited on the sidelines to see select images appear in fashion magazines weeks later. That's changed radically. In 2014, 100,000 people attended New York's Fall Fashion Week, while another 2.6 million tuned in online. But in 2015, 44 million people engaged with New York Fall Fashion Week content on Instagram alone. That's more than 500 times the number of people who fit in the Allianz Arena, which is beautiful, by the way. I saw it on my way in the other night. Now, we'd all love to travel to New York, Berlin, London, Paris. But let's face it, we all can't. But that won't stop us from getting a front row seat at fashion shows and also a behind-the-scenes view. Our new world of visual language isn't just giving us better access. It's giving us access to better stuff. A fourth change that's been created by visual language is probably obvious to all of you. Businesses are communicating differently with us today. Of course, marketers have always used images. In fact, advertising was one of the first industries to recognize their unique storytelling power. The fact is that images have the capacity to move consumers in ways that words often can't. There's even a biological basis for this. MIT University neuroscientists have found that the human brain can process entire images the eye sees for as little as 13 milliseconds. 13 milliseconds to convey a story, an emotion, a thought that might take 3 seconds, maybe even 3 minutes to convey through words. And we understand visuals faster because they affect us both cognitively and emotionally. And because visuals are processed in our long-term memory, we remember them long after we've seen them, and that is key. During the past few decades, we have seen visual advertising come online, but it's lost some of its magic. Think about those flashing banner ads and all that email spam. That's changed dramatically, too. Visual platforms like Instagram are redefining how we think about mobile. The virtual shop window, the product catalog, the lookbook for ideas and inspiration. And in immersive settings, centered around passion and interests, we see that people are very receptive to images, especially ones that are relevant to them. So, while it's early days of advertising on Instagrams, studies have shown that these ads work. Ad recall, on average, can be 3 times better than other types of online advertising. This is exciting for global brands, but it's equally exciting for small businesses, which I know we all love. Let me show you what I mean. This is Shaky Issa. I love Shaky Issa. Shaky Issa has always loved to cook, and she always dreamed of starting a business. This is not the easiest thing to do if you're a 26-year-old woman living in Dubai. But with the support of her family, she started making burgers at home. Every day, Shaky Issa would post photos of her daily creations on her account called She Burger. You could call the number on the profile that was listed on her account. You'd find things like the Santa Fe burger with bacon and avocado, or the Middle Eastern burger with falafel. Sorry if I'm making anyone hungry here. 2 years later, Shaky Issa has a thriving business. She's attracted 37,000 followers, and she's hired a team of people to help her in the kitchen and deliver those burgers around the city. And best of all, Shaky Issa didn't need a TV commercial or a full-page glossy ad to launch her business. All she needed was a way to get an image in front of those hungry customers. The new global language of images is transforming marketing. And businesses of every size, big or small, need to learn to speak it. Now, visual language isn't just changing how we buy and sell and market things. It's changing how we tell stories. Mark Zuckerberg often talks about how each generation of technology allows us to tell story in more immersive ways. We've gone from texting about our weekend plans to giving people a real-time view into what we're doing in that particular moment. That's a big jump. But if you look at how people are using technology, you can see that we just aren't satisfied. We want more flexibility, more richness, more depth. We don't just want a still image. Tell me, look up here, which would you prefer? This image of Beyoncé celebrating Pride, or Beyoncé doing a celebratory dance? Sometimes we want sight, sound, and motion to convey what it is, what we want to say. As recently as last year, I would have been talking about video, but the line between a photo and a video is blurring. Let me show you what I mean. Last year, we launched a separate app called Boomerang, which lets you create little 1-second looping videos. When I first heard about it, I wasn't so convinced that there was anything to it. It wasn't exactly a video because it wasn't long enough, but it wasn't a photo either. But as you can see, I've since embraced the technology, or more to the point, my son has. It's transformed his daily walk up the stairs into something that's fun and delightful. Very cute, isn't he? At least most of the time. I digress. Boomerang hit #1 in the app stores in more than 70 countries, cluing me into what our product team already knew, that there is a tremendous appetite to do more, to innovate more, to share visually in new ways. My final reflection: to speak this new global language, be yourself. You see, this new global language has many, many dialects. But over the year, I've observed that one of them reigns supreme: an authentic first-person perspective. Authenticity isn't about having the right technical tools. It's about finding your visual voice and using it, whether you're a brand, a public figure, or any one of us here. Now, it can be hard for us adults to be authentic. That's just the truth, right? My first week at Instagram, I posted some impressive latte art. That looks pretty good right about now, actually. A few more minutes, and then you can go get one. I love coffee. It is my favorite thing. It's my desert island food. But most mornings, I'm simply too busy to notice how it looks. I just want it strong and immediately. The other truth is, I am a terrible photographer. And when I started this job at Instagram, I felt all this pressure to be creative. I wanted to fit in with my younger, hip colleagues who viewed coffee as an art form. But as we all know, imitating someone else feels uncomfortable and usually doesn't come off very well. This was also confirmed for me through the feedback on my photos. People liked the more authentic ones. They just did. I learned that through trial and error. But I also learned it by watching teens. They are passionate about authenticity, and they can sniff out a fake from a mile away. Take Gigi Crouch, a 17-year-old ballerina with scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine. She posts photos of herself doing complicated, beautiful poses. And her message is clear and simple. Follow your dreams, no matter how challenging. Teenagers like Gigi are native speakers of our new global language. Their stories are authentic, and the subtext is often about acceptance. I think we can all learn from them. I certainly have. I've given up on latte art. I'm being myself, even if it means silly selfies with my husband. So, what does this all add up to? In the last 5 years in technology, if they were defined by the shift from desktop to mobile, the next 5 years are going to be defined by a move from words to images. We're talking about a unifying global language, one that everybody understands, one that's already transforming industries, marketing, and the way we reach each other and relate to each other. And while we all have the capacity to understand this new global language, many of us could benefit from finding our own authentic visual voice. And I say this to you as someone who is not yet fluent either. We can't afford not to pay attention and participate, because this is an opportunity for all of us to be better. Think about Katie Mailer, Helen Downey, Shaky Issa, or any of the people or teens in your life. When they communicate with images, they are not just sharing a photo or a video. They are communicating their world, their worldview, their mission, and we can all benefit from that in some way. We are steadily moving towards a world where everyone will have access to smartphone technology. And when this happens, when anyone can literally make history, our world will be smarter, more accessible, more connected, maybe a little more empathetic, and mostly, I hope, a better world. Thank you. Thank you.